As I'm noticing more and more of you asking me advice about how to transition into new roles, and to my surprise, I've had some great percentage of you who are successful in your transition. I thought I'd make a video with to-the-point advice on how do I see these things and what are some keys to be successful here, right? And I'm going to keep it short and to the point. I'm going to talk about the differences between screening rounds and final interviews, and then I'm going to talk about what's your core strength, or what I observe is core strength for people who want to transition or looking for a career change, right? So let's start with first the difference between getting interviews and receiving job offers, right? So you should know that it's the classic difference between marketing and sales, right? Getting interviews is more of a marketing quest, whereas passing final interview rounds is a more complicated matter, right? So getting job interviews for a role that you are not particularly experienced with can be quite challenging. However, if you have a proper CV and with the right keywords, you will get invited for screening rounds. Or if that's maybe not enough, you could also have a few referrals, some friends to refer you. Hey, I know this guy who really wants to get into this new type of role, and this could also help you in obtaining these screening rounds. What I would like to stress out here is that many of you underestimate the importance of well-keyworded CVs. To give an example, even companies such as Amazon recommend some candidates to have their CV written by someone else, simply because the power of the applicant tracking system is one such, that keywords do matter. And if you're still not convinced on this, think of it this way. Put yourself in your recruiter's shoes. If you'd have to hire someone, you have to recommend someone to advance in the hiring process, but they have absolutely no keyword that would recommend them as a qualified candidate, why would you take a risk with them, right, in the hiring process? So if you have those keywords in your CV, the recruiter is also far more likely to recommend you to advance in the hiring process. All right, so this would be the first thing you should understand, that getting interviews is marketing, and marketing works on CVs and on referrals. Okay, the second part of this would be, most importantly here, would be to pass final interviews. And passing final interviews is very much different. It's an entire thing than to obtain screening rounds or to go through screening rounds or that marketing thing. And why am I saying this is a completely different thing? Well, because the challenge is that oftentimes candidates, when they receive an invitation for a final interview round, you say, yay, I got an invitation. Well, what actually means is that you got a deadline of at best 10 days on average to actually prepare for that final interview. And if I had to ask you, okay, is 10 days enough for you to become good with interviews? In my experience, that's not often the case, right? So the number one thing you should keep in mind is that candidates wildly underestimate the time it takes to really become good at interviewing, right? So my recommendation to you, the backbone of passing final interview rounds would be to prepare a story bank. Okay, so a story bank would be basically mean your highlights that you have from your career. And more interestingly, nowadays you can accurately predict the types of questions you can expect, even for the new type of role, right? And try to link your story bank to these qualifications or these topics that they would be most likely interested in, right? So long story short, prepare a story bank if you want to significantly improve your chances to pass final interviews. And the second point I want to touch about here just quickly is that in this context, in what's particular about candidates looking for a career transition, these candidates have two core strengths, okay? The two core strengths would be, first is there's usually some overlap between the job that you are in right now, or the job that you have experience with, and the job you're applying for. So for instance, I recently coached someone who was a software development engineer, and they wanted a career transition into a quant role, right? And it turns out, they were a software engineer for financial services, so there was a little bit the major overlap between software engineer and the quant would be programming. Okay, so if you find, hey, what's that common ground, that would be your strength. Programming is a strength going into a quant interview. All right, so this would be the number one strength you should keep in mind, and to interview on your strength during a job interview. And the second strength that's probably even more specifically linked with candidates who are looking for a career transition would be enthusiasm, right? So if you're looking for a change, that's usually because you are sold that, hey, that change is the best thing to do moving forward. And this alone will motivate you to both prepare the interview, which not many candidates feel particularly interested in, and even more importantly, to interview with confidence. Okay, when you're enthusiastic, when you're energetic, you also score better for stuff such as clarity of thought oftentimes, and you send a good vibe to the interviewer. And since more often than not, you're not going to be applying for a role that's with high expectations on your level of proficiency on your new road, therefore, the things such as motivation and enthusiasm will play a significant role, right? So just to recap here, screening rounds, you must have CVs and referrals, or to get interviews even. Passing final interviews usually underestimate how long it takes to prepare them, so start soon, start preparing a story bank. Interview on your strengths, both your overlap between what you know and what you're supposed to know, and your enthusiasm for the role is what really sells with this thing. So I hope you found this useful, and thank you very much for watching.